In today's video, let's talk about this new way to turn your Steam library physical. And after that, we might just have the Steam Deck OLED Pro we've been waiting for, and the price isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, but of course it's still kind of expensive. How's it going? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is Deck Ready, my channel all about Steam hardware, and as usual, I hope you're having a great week playing a ton of video games. I've been playing a lot of sequels lately. I've talked about a few on the channel here: No More Room in Hell 2, Aliens Fireteam Elite 2, Sinking City 2, and Mortal Shell 2. Out of the four, I think my two favorites are No More Room in Hell 2 and Mortal Shell 2. I think those are two games that are 100% worth buying, but the other two aren't bad by any means either. Let me know what you're playing down in the comments below. Also, I'm cooking on my horror channel. I just posted a video trying to figure out where the hell Jason Voorhees is. Everyone wants a new movie, and we're getting like beer collaborations, video games, TV shows. Not a new movie though, so I looked into it and I figured out some cool stuff. And the best part is you can search for that channel with my name spelled right or wrong, because people put a G in my name so much that it comes up either way. But with the intro out of the way, let's talk about this cool new tool you can use to turn your library physical on Steam. So the idea of copying your games to a micro SD card and throwing them in a Switch 2 style case isn't anything new. I mean, people have been doing that for years. I've talked about it multiple times on the channel. And like a year ago, it was definitely something I was interested in, because you could get 512 gig SD cards in multi-packs for less than $100. You could get like 6 of them for less than $100. And now, I don't know if you guys have checked the prices on micro SD cards, but you may as well just save yourself some anguish and grief and just not do it if you haven't looked in a while, because they are getting horrendously expensive. Like, I needed a new editing drive because I edit off of an external SSD, and the one I've been using has lasted like 8 years at this point, and it's really slowing down. I got it for $70 when I bought it back in the day, and now the same drive, the Samsung T5, last time I checked was $393. So when it comes to memory, storage, RAM, all that stuff, it's nothing new. The prices are through the roof, and it doesn't look like they're going to change anytime soon, because the newest announcement is that there's a 15% increase in RAM prices coming very soon. But if you've got some SD cards laying around, I definitely see the appeal of turning your library physical, because a ton of games on Steam, like the vast majority of them, don't have any license checks or anything like that. So once you buy the game and download it to your PC, you can literally drag the files out to an SD card or an SSD or even an HDD and play that game whether or not you're logged into Steam. And this new tool is going to be useful whether or not you do it, because it's called My Game Shelf. It was created by a Reddit user, and essentially what it is an image platform where you can literally type in the game ID. If you've ever gone into the compat data folder on your Steam Deck, the numbers that they use to name the individual game folders are their app IDs on Steam. You literally punch in the app ID for whatever game you want, and it'll find art and create a printable case file. So you can go to the library or use a printer if you've still got one of those, get some nice cardstock, or try to find the paper that they use for PS5, PS4, Xbox Series X, and Switch 2 games, print it out, order some dummy cases that fit Switch 2 sized art, and then you'll have custom created art for whatever game you want. I decided to test it out because it's completely free, and the game it wanted to do first was Alan Wake, so I just hit generate, and it honestly looks really damn good. It looks like it's pulling screenshots from the actual Steam page to make the background and put 4 of them on the back of the game. It also looks like it's pulling the description from the Steam page, and then of course on the front of the art you get the cover art for the game, and then the spine says the title of the game and tells you it's a PC Steam game. So if you buy a batch of dummy Switch cases in bulk, you could create a really cool game shelf with all of your favorite Steam games, regardless of whether or not you're copying the games to a micro SD card. I don't know why, but there's just something cool about seeing your entire collection laid out on a shelf. Like with 4K Blu-rays, I buy those because not only do they come with the 4K Blu-ray, they come with a regular Blu-ray, and they also come with a digital code that if you punch that into Movies Anywhere, you can then watch the movie on Apple. And compared to like all the other streaming services, Apple's not totally on par, I would say, with using a 4K Blu-ray, but it's close enough where, you know, I don't really mind streaming a movie instead of getting up off my couch, grabbing the disc out of my shelf and popping it into the PS5. The real win for me for buying physical movies is seeing my entire collection just sitting there underneath my TV, and that's why I buy physical Switch games. That's why I buy physical PS5 games. And with, you know, Sony getting rid of physical games and this becoming a lost art, they already have a nostalgia factor attached to them, but as time goes on, I mean, that's just going to get stronger. So I've always really wanted a way to physically display my Steam games, because, you know, you used to be able to get physical Steam copies. Like back in the day, GameStop sold them, and they had PC DVD at the top, and it would have a disc in there, but it would also have a Steam code. So like you could pop the game into your PC, it would open up Steam, it would transfer the game files, and then they would update. And to actually play the game, you would enter the Steam code, it would add it to your account, and it was cool because you got a little head start on downloading. Because while internet is super fast now, back in the day, I mean, you were lucky to get 100 megabytes down. So the main thing my friends and I would do would be turn off the power save features so that sleep mode would never kick in and the hard drive would stay spinning. We'd turn off the monitors and queue up all of our games to download overnight, and then we'd come back in the morning and like maybe one or two of them would be downloaded. So things have gotten a lot better since then, but yeah, it was cool to get that little head start from the DVD that came with the Steam physical copy, but those just went away. I don't even know when, because you used to see them at Target and then one day they disappeared, and I gotta be real, I didn't even notice. When it comes to physical games going away, it shows how much your reputation actually matters in terms of how your customers feel about you, because Sony getting rid of them wasn't necessarily like a bad thing coming out of the blue, right? Like it wasn't just this isolated experience in a vacuum where Sony uncharacteristically did something bad. They've been making anti-consumer moves left and right lately. The biggest one I can remember for PC users, other than getting rid of PC ports altogether and not even announcing it, is when after the fact, like months after Helldivers 2 was made available on Steam, they tried to force people to log into a PlayStation Network account, which sucks because you already have a Steam account, you bought the game, you shouldn't need a PlayStation Network account to play it. And because they were doing it after the fact, that would make the game unplayable in a lot of the regions they sold the game in, because you can't make a PlayStation Network account in all the regions that the game was available in. Of course, there's also the controversy I just mentioned where they're done making single player games for PC, like Spider-Man 3. They've released Spider-Man, Spider-Man Miles Morales, and Spider-Man 2 on PC. Theoretically, there's a new Venom game coming that they've had in the works for a while, and of course the culmination of it all with Spider-Man 3. So you've sold the vast majority of a franchise on PC and you're not going to let people finish it out. And with the PS6 looking like it's going to cost $1,000, I mean, that's just spitting in the face of people who gave you money. Like, even though not enough people gave them money to continue making PC ports of their games in their eyes, you still sold the games, and you'd think you'd want to keep those customers happy just in case, you know, this whole plan falls apart, PlayStation hardware goes away, and you have to come crawling back to Steam. People are going to remember that. And while you think you might be fine with not releasing first-party single-player games, they're going to remember that when you release your next multiplayer live service games, as evidenced by Marvel Tokon Fighting Spirits, which didn't light the world on fire at all. It got great reviews. It seems like a fun game. People aren't buying it. The Steam charts are not high on that game. And also, weirdly, even though Dragon Ball FighterZ works fine and other Arc System Works games work fine on SteamOS, weirdly, they used a different anti-cheat for Marvel Tokon for no reason. So like, if you want to sell your live service multiplayer games on PC, you'd think you'd support Linux and get as many people on board as possible. So I think ultimately Valve was being a little prophetic, but you know, the good reputation kind of helped them by getting rid of physical games, because by the time that actually happened, I mean, they were already selling PCs without disk drives to begin with. So you were effectively doing what this guy is doing in a roundabout way, buying an empty case to put on your shelf that had a Steam code in it. I'd still love if they brought that back, because that's exactly what PlayStation's going to do in the future, right? With GTA 6, you'll be able to buy it at a store with a case, but there's going to be no disc in it, just a code to download from the PlayStation Store. I'm sure eventually that'll go away too, but if it doesn't, I'd like to see that for Steam come back, because doing stuff like this, making your own physical library, is just damn awesome. But moving on to the second big news story of today's video, let's talk about how we're finally kind of getting a Steam Deck OLED Pro thanks to Asus and the ROG Xbox Ally X20. If you haven't seen this thing, it's a limited edition version of the ROG Xbox Ally X. It's kind of just a small revision, but it comes along with one big feature, which is of course a bigger OLED screen. And while I haven't gotten hands-on with it, it does seem pretty damn nice. Out of all the other handhelds I've gotten in the office over the years, like I've had the original Legion Go, I gave it to my brother, I got the Legion Go S, the regular ROG Ally, the Ally X. The only one I keep consistently in the rotation, in addition to my Steam Deck of course, is the ROG Xbox Ally X, because while the screen is not great and the Z2 Extreme is not necessarily a big enough upgrade, I would say, over the Z1 Extreme, those controller grips they came up with are awesome. And when you use Dolby Atmos with Windows, it sounds absolutely phenomenal. It's the only handheld I've actually used that manages to live up to the Steam Deck's incredible speakers. And even though on SteamOS you don't get the Dolby Atmos support, the speakers are still pretty damn good. They're not as good as the Steam Deck, but they're close enough where if I'm playing a game because it just can't run on the Steam Deck and I want to play it handheld, like Star Wars Zero Company is a great example of a game that looks like it runs well on the ROG Xbox Ally X but doesn't run well on the Steam Deck, they're more than good enough. So overall, it's a pretty dang decent handheld that's been iterated on for 3 generations at this point. And they announced all the critical info about the X20, but most interestingly is the price, which is only $1,300. And I say only $1,300 because the regular ROG Xbox Ally X is $1,000. And by adding in an OLED screen, people just assumed the price was going to go through the roof. And a $300 increase in the era we're living in now is honestly not that much. You can pre-order it right now and it ships on October 15th, so it's right around the corner. And one of the weird things is when this was initially announced, people were thinking you need to buy it in a bundle with the X-Real X1 glasses, and that bundle does exist. It's $2,500 and it comes with a Pelican case in addition to the handheld and the glasses, but thankfully you don't have to buy it with the glasses. And at $1,300, just knowing what's going on in the world right now, if you have the Steam Deck LCD or don't have a Steam Deck at all and you just want maximum power, I think this is the one that's worth grabbing, if any, instead of a Steam Deck OLED. But either way, it's a lot of money. Like $1,300 for a handheld really gets you dangerously close to gaming laptop prices. And I know they're completely different devices. I make that argument all the time, but really ultimately what it just goes to show is these companies have to figure out how to get the prices down. Like, I understand that the RAM crisis is this terrible thing that no one saw coming, or they did see coming and they have no way around it. There's got to be something they can do, guys. Like, what is the alternative, right? Like, the prices aren't fixed at all. They're not the highest they'll ever be. We just talked about in the last news story how there's a 15% increase coming, and it's supposed to keep happening all the way into 2027 and then kind of taper off in 2028. But most of the reporting says that it's not going to fall back down to where it was in 2025, and it's going to take up to a decade for it to get that low again. There's got to be a way to get the prices down, whether it's make more efficient chips, make better batteries, make better screens that cost less money. I know all these companies would love to transition people to cloud-based gaming, but I don't think I really ever want to do cloud-based gaming as my main way to play games. The latency sucks. It entirely relies on you being close to a data center, which really blows at the end of the day. I want to own my games, right? Like, look at the big controversy PlayStation is that we just talked about. The entire situation with that is centered on the idea of not owning your games. And the ultimate final boss, in my opinion, at least in terms of game ownership, is of course playing them entirely through the cloud, because they're just going to live on the server at Sony or Microsoft or Nintendo or anyone really. Like, whoever makes the game, they're going to own the only copy of the game, and you are truly licensing the ability to rent it whenever you have good enough internet to play these games. Like, the whole idea of a handheld is that you can play it on your couch, yes, and streaming in those scenarios makes sense, but I like playing in my backyard away from Wi-Fi. I like taking it on trips and playing on planes. And I know Starlink is being equipped in planes, but I just don't think the infrastructure is there or potentially ever will be there to make cloud gaming like a viable replacement for just downloading and playing a game on the device you own. So I don't know. I think this thing looks really cool. And if I didn't have a handheld at my disposal, I'd be really looking into this. But after spending $1,500 on the Steam machine, I think I'm good on purchases for a little while. But if you really want the most power you can get that isn't going to cost you like $1,700, like the new Intel equipped MSI Claw, I think this thing is a really good option. And some people don't like the gold accents all over it. I think it looks really cool. It honestly looks like the limited edition Steam Deck OLED, and I'd prefer it also be black and orange, but black and gold, pretty damn cool colorway that we don't see enough. And I love that it's translucent. So yeah, I might cave and end up picking one of these up just because I actually do use my ROG Xbox Ally X a lot for Windows games. And especially now with the disc to digital program Xbox just announced, I have a ton of Xbox Series X discs, and some of the games I don't own on Steam, I'm going to be using my ROG Xbox Ally X a lot more, because you're able to just pop your disc into your Series X, get a full digital title, and all the first party stuff gives you a free PC copy once you do that. So my library on Xbox on PC just went through the roof by owning a bunch of physical games. But with this revelation that the RAM crisis is sticking around and it's not going anywhere until at least 2028, there's got to be a solution that can be found. I don't know if Valve has to open up their own RAM factory, but if they did that, can you imagine how much people would love them? I know it's impossible, right? Like, apparently it takes 5 years to get even usable RAM to be produced, but if there's any company out there who could figure it out, it definitely seems like Valve. They just got to release the Steam frame first, right? Like, let's get that thing out the door, and then we can talk about Valve making their own RAM factory. Anyway, guys, that's all I've got for you in today's video. As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and shape on.